Okay, today's little job is getting an engine bolt into this hole. Now I did repair the other side after a crash, and the threads weren't that good. This one had the bung all bolted into it, and I thought, oh, it's probably all right, but I'll pull it apart and maybe put a fresh bolt in it, like a proper bolt, so that both sides are the same. When I pulled it out, you can't see it, but all the thread came out with it, and the helicoil that was in there did a job, munted the bolt pretty bad. I presume it's that helicoil because it sort of half came out. Either way, the thread's munted in the head. So the job today is to get a good thread in there, get the helicoil put in. I have already run a helicoil tap down it, and it seemed to clean up the thread pretty good, but when I screwed the helicoil in, a new one, it just bunched up. It didn't seat down into the thread, so it is all cross threaded in here, so it's a little bit of a problem getting the helicoil to go in where it should. So I've freshened up the thread that the helicoil sits in down inside, so 20mm in where it goes into the head, and I'm making a little tool. So as I said, the bolt that was taken out is pretty munted, and of course it's a matching munted thread inside the head. This is the helicoil as it came out. This is the one that I put in, which I luckily managed to extract again. So what I've got to do is get this helicoil into the thread in the head with the correct 1.25 pitch. So what I've done is I've machined up a little test piece which has the helicoil thread tapped into it, and then I can run the helicoil in, test that my little tool works, and if it doesn't, I can carry on screwing it right out the other side and make some changes and try again. So the idea is to use a bolt, not the flash new one I've bought, but just a bolt with the correct thread. So if I can get that focused, with the helicoil screwed onto this, you know that the pitch is correct, because this is a 1.25 pitch 10mm bolt. So how do you turn the helicoil into the thread in the head? What I've done is it's hard to see here, I've ground a little relief on here, and it's got an edge where it's just won't focus on it, where it's going to drive the helicoil. Maybe I'll put the helicoil on and show you. So the end of the bolt has been ground down so that it will drive the tang on the helicoil, and as you can see, if it focuses, which it's not going to, there we go, no, the thread on the bolt holds the helicoil at the correct pitch. So all that remains is to get the helicoil started and then turn it on in, and the pitch will end up being correct. Hopefully it'll pick up the insert thread rather than one of the cross-threaded things. Now, once you got that in, you got to somehow get this bolt out, and of course it's got the tang in the way. So what I've done is a little hard to see, but I've actually ground it down so that the tang can ride up over top of it when you're turning it in the wrong direction, i.e. undoing it. And that seems to work. I've tried it into my little test piece and it worked good as gold. It's not gonna focus. Oh, you can just see it there. It's got a bit of a taper on it. Yep, there you go. So that seems to work pretty good. Time will tell, I suppose. So here's the helicoil wound into my test piece using this little tool, and if I turn it backwards, like I was, say, undoing the bolt after I screwed the helicoil in, you can see that it disengages the tang, and then I can just withdraw the bolt, leaving the helicoil in the hole. And I can just break the tang off using a punch just like normal. So yeah, I've got it to the point where I'm confident enough to, well, confident's probably the wrong word, where I'm going to give it a go. Well, I've screwed the insert in using my little tool. This is the test. I have not done a pre-test before showing you this, whether this screws in or not. And what do you know? Goes in just like a bought one. I do not know how tight I'm going to be able to do this up. We'll find out, I suppose. Now all I've got to do is build a spacer that fits there. There was a piece of old aluminium that they jammed in there, and then it had the crash bung on top. But I'm going to make a single piece which provides the spacer that comes out, a sort of a washer, and then the piece that extends into the bung, and then the bolt. This bolt goes through and holds it in place. That's not too hard. This was the hard bit, getting the thread in. Now whether that's going to hold or not, because like I said, the threads inside in the engine, in the head, are actually damaged and cross-threaded, and did a real job on the old bolt. So anyway, fingers crossed. New piece made to replace the small stack of rough cut bits of aluminium and washers. So this fits in there. It is actually pushing on the piece in the middle, which is where the bolts by default push on. Straight in there. Like that. That bolt's on there, so it's pretty much like standard, and bolt and a washer to hold the whole lot together. Sweet. So here's the alloy spacer, washer, and the bolt just nipped up in the hole. So here we have the parts that extend through the frame into the engine. This is the actual spacer in the frame, ready to go. And this is the whole thing bolted up. It actually did up really well. I turned the bolt into the helicoil to hold the whole thing together, and it came up hard, like it wasn't mushy at all at the end. And I've got it done up reasonably tight. Not as tight as you'd like, but not too bad.